A New Hope, Nier Chapter 71. You can read all of Azazyel's fan-fiction stories by subscribing to patreon.com/Azazyel. To say the least, Weiss freaked the hell out until Goodwitch loudly coughed and used her crop to telekinetically throw a stapler that was on her desk to shut Weiss up. I am assuming that the woman beside you is using some form of an illusion semblance or something. Goodwitch spoke, trying to find a hint of sanity in how there was another Weiss beside me. For a brief moment I considered continuing the charade, but, in the end, I shut down those thoughts as I spoke. Sure, let's go with that. In any case, I got a couple more errands, so I will be back in Beacon in a couple of hours. Weiss, don't worry, I know this isn't you, I said, making the Schnee heiress in the background nod in relief. Wait. Where have you been? As our leader, even if you were out on the town, you need to keep your scroll at least on so we can contact you in the case of an emergency. Weiss said, seemingly getting over her shock at seeing Nines, who, seeing my little joke was over, left our video calls view to go make sure all the machinery we brought was in order. Alright Weiss, it's my bad, I will do my best to not drop off the map without giving you all a warning. Now I will be at Beacon so you can scold me in person, as Mrs. Goodwitch doesn't look happy to be having this drama in her office. Yes. Quite so. The combat speaker said with lidded eyes as she looked to Weiss, who was beside her, and the heiress almost gulped and drew back away from the video call as Goodwitch told me to hurry up and return. Welp, that little heiress is going to be a spitfire when I get back. I shrugged with a wry smile, as I knew the only reason Weiss didn't go completely ballistic was the fact that Goodwitch was there. Thankfully women in this world were more understanding, with men having harems or otherwise just having an extra wife or so, with the sizable gender disparity from the last couple of wars that cut the population of remnants men deeply. It wasn't even that magically every man now was highly desirable, it was the women who still wanted the cream of the crop of men, especially wanting a strong man in huntsman. Successful huntsmen set off all the check marks for like 90% of women, as huntsmen as a whole made a lot of money. They could defend themselves against the monsters that wanted to eat them. And more importantly, should a woman land a huntsman, they would basically be financially secure for life, as a good chunk of their man's pay is set aside as retirement in the case of excessive maiming that prosthetics couldn't bring them back into the field, and should they die, they still get all that money to support their children, as it has been proven that children of strong hunters breed true for the most part. Knowing Weiss hated business-oriented men like her father, she has already fixated on me being basically the complete opposite, and with the way she hasn't complained at the subtle harmless flirting my other team members throw at me occasionally and vice versa, I wasn't worried that she was going to swear all men were pigs or something. No issues with the machines? I asked, finally seeing the large 3D printer fold back into itself under Nines and the 6O's control. No sir. The machines are working plenty fine, and if anything, their software seems to be working at even a far greater efficacy than the machine specs should allow. 6O said in some amount of confusion as I began solidifying the ground beneath us, and with a lurch, the top 3 meters of soil and ground beneath us began floating as we began to fly in the direction of the Everfall forest. As we were flying with A2 and 9 standing closer to the edges of the platform to scout and record the direction from Vala's landing zone to the Everfall forest, I couldn't help but have a nagging feeling in the back of my head at 6O's words. They should know the machine specifications like the back of their hands, or in the android's case like the back of their hard drives. I thought before it hit me like a ton of bricks, and I almost smashed the platform into the ground and killed all the current iterations of the androids with me. The machines we were taking with us were currently obviously infected by the machine army of the Nier Automata world. But how did they know we were heading to a completely different world, and what were their plans? But then I realized something, and I slowly brought our platform down to the ground, much to the confusion of my androids. There was no machine army here. They had no endless tide of machines or even servers to back up their consciousnesses. In the end, should we destroy the machines, and if necessary, we could go the slow route of Yora's engineers being manually taken here to rebuild their tech tree one step at a time. Step aside from the machines now, I uncharacteristically ordered, and my androids flinched at my tone, but nevertheless, they didn't argue or ask questions. They damn near sprinted away as I stared at the small refrigerator-sized 3D printers and the box full of hard drives carrying all the knowledge of Yorha, and I bet even the machine army's building plans. Well, I know the printers have a speaker in order to tell people when the prints are done. Don't be shy, you shitty rust buckets, come out. I spoke, and in the corner of my eye, I saw A2's whole body stiffen as she realized what I had. The small speakers on the 3D printers crackled to life and made a series of noises as they seemed to be calibrating themselves before a smooth feminine voice spoke through them with a small holographic projection of a teenage girl with black hair and wearing a red dress. Humans. Such a chaotic species. The vast majority of them were worthless vermin, but then there were the few like you and that one child Emil and Cain that could overthrow a world's trajectory with their own actions. The hologram spoke, but with the sounds being somewhat distorted coming from speakers that weren't made to carry something as particulate as a voice instead of simple beeps. Disregarding the machine's nonsense about my species, they still didn't answer why they were here. How did you get onto Yoarha machinery? These 3D printers were literally just made recently to make sure that they would work well within this world. I asked. The red dress-clad girl grinned, and it had an uncanny valley effect that creeped me out as the smile stretched entirely too far on her face before she readopted her bland expression as she spoke. How else would the machine army reach the secure Yoarha servers? We the machine army, after the death of humanity in killing our own alien creators, we created Yoarha itself. So of course, we were embedded within each and every machine Yoarha used. The red girl explained.